Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Welcome to Cusco.
High in the Andes lies a city full of mystery and majesty, a place where the echoes of a mighty empire still whisper through stone streets. This is Cusco, the ancient heart of the Inca Empire, where every corner, every square, and every towering wall tells a tale of power, innovation, and reverence for the gods. Today we're not just taking a tour through the city, we're stepping into a sacred capital of an empire that once ruled over vast stretches of South America. And of course, we're also going to make some cute furry friends. But let's start at the beginning of the story.
Let's start today's tour in the historical center of Cusco. We are currently at the Plaza de las Armas. And this is one of the main squares here in the city of Cusco. Here at this square there are lots of restaurants nowadays and also hotels, and also you can book a lot of tours. At this place you can also see the colonial architecture that has been created by the Spanish when they started to colonize Cusco. As you can see here behind me, for example, there's the Cathedral of Cusco, which has been built by the Spanish, and it has been constructed over an ancient temple of the Inca. When the Spanish conquered Cusco, they actually redesigned the city. They started to establish their own buildings at the beginning of 1534. And that is why you can see a lot of colonial architecture here in the historical center of Cusco. Here at the Plaza de las Armas, you can also find a statue of one of the Inca emperors. You can see it here right behind me. This is Pachatuke. He was one of the most important emperors of the Inca Empire and ruled between 1438 and 1471. Under his leadership, the Incan Empire expanded a lot. They covered parts of Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia, so huge parts of South America. Even though here at the central square there are quite a lot of people, I must say that I expected it to be way more crowded. Cusco is one of the main touristic places here of Peru because the Machu Picchu is actually nearby. So I was expecting it to be extremely crowded, but honestly, it is rather calm, I would say. There's not that much traffic here in the city center and it seems pretty laid back. So I just entered the cathedral. Unfortunately, it is absolutely not allowed to film inside the cathedral, but I would like to share a few things that I saw there.
For the very first time, I learned how the Spanish converted the native Incas to Catholics. In the cathedral, you will find a lot of details showcasing this. For example, there is a version of Jesus Christ on the cross that has dark skin and doesn't look up into the sky but down to earth, the Pachamama. And besides that, he also has different clothes than usual. This and the skin color have been changed like that so that the indigenous people could identify themselves with Jesus and the new religion.
And all of that has been demanded by the Spanish because when they realized that the indigenous people were still worshipping the god of the sun, they wanted them to identify themselves with the Catholic Church. There was one other thing that actually caught my attention. In this church there is a painting of the last meal of Jesus.
This painting has been made into a version of Cusco. On the table you can see traditional foods of Cusco such as the guinea pig or the tortilla of corn in the hand of Jesus. The painting has been made by Marcos Zapata, who was a Peruvian Quechua painter, and this version of the Last Supper was seen as a positive way of converting the natives to the new religion.
Now this here behind me is actually a wall that has been constructed by the Incas. It is still intact and looks perfectly fine until today. I've read that when the Spanish arrived here in Cusco, they were impressed by the architecture of the Inca. As you can see here, the rock formations are perfectly shaped and fit perfectly together. The buildings in general were very strong. And apparently the Spanish thought that their buildings are even better than the ones the Spanish had in Spain. During an earthquake, a lot of colonial buildings built by the Spanish have been destroyed, while the Incan walls kept standing. I am now in the convent of San Domingo, and unfortunately here as well it is forbidden to film or take photos. I won't be able to show you too much, but there's a very interesting story that I wanted to share with you. That is that the convent is actually also built on top of an ancient temple of the Inca. Here behind me, for example, you can still see old Inca walls that are still here until today. The Inca Temple has been full of gold. All of the walls were full of gold. And at some point, the Spanish captured the Incan Emperor. They said that they would release him if they would receive a lot of gold from the Incas. So the Incas actually melted all of the gold here. They took it off the walls, they collected everything they had, and they handed it over to the Spanish. But instead of liberating the Incan emperor, the Spanish actually executed him. They kept the gold, and well, the emperor was dead. I have mentioned the picture of the last meal of Jesus Christ in the cathedral of Cusco. Obviously, there's also Judas in that picture. But that Judas actually has the face of Francisco Pizarro, which was the Spaniard that was responsible for the death of the Incan emperor. The painter obviously changed the face of Judas. That is because Judas obviously was the traitor of Jesus, while Francisco betrayed the Inca. I just read that the Inca actually didn't see groups of stars in the Milky Way, but they saw pictures of animals. For example, here behind me, you can see a llama and also a snake here. So for the Incas, the stars had a completely different meaning than for us. I am now walking up to a very historical site and also a beautiful viewpoint. And I am walking through the neighborhood that is called San Blas. And this neighborhood is actually popular because, well, there are first of all a lot of restaurants here and hotels, but most of all, the restaurants here have amazingly beautiful views over the city. I'm not going to lie, it is a little bit exhausting to walk up here because we are at about 3,500 meters of altitude, if I'm not mistaken. So you will notice it. Very important hint, always walk up very slowly to save some energy. I just bought my ticket for Sacsayhuaman, which used to be an ancient Incan temple. Here they had a lot of celebrations in this area, and well, today it is a little bit destroyed by the Spanish, but you can still visit it, and there are various sites that I am going to show you now. Also, I've heard that here in Sacsayhuaman you can actually see alpacas, wild alpacas, and I will hopefully find some of them. Here again we can see perfectly built Incan walls. Actually in this area the rocks are not as perfectly squared as we have seen it in some places in the city center, but you can see that they fit perfectly onto each other. So they have the perfect shape to form strong walls. And actually, the Spanish took away a lot of those stones to use it for their own constructions in the city center of Cusco. For example, the cathedral that we have been visiting earlier contains a lot of rocks from this Incan temple, which means that the walls used to be way higher than they are today. By the way, I completely forgot to mention that this area is only 2 kilometers away from the city center of Cusco. I actually walked here, so you can definitely walk it, but you would have to go uphill. I honestly wasn't expecting to get such an insanely beautiful view all over Cusco from up here. We can actually see the whole city. We can see down there the area where we started, the Plaza de las Armas, and the cathedral, the whole historical center. But this view is absolutely impressive. This old temple here has been started to build by the Incan Emperor Pachacutec, and we have seen a statue of his before in the city center, if you remember. That is the same emperor. It is assumed that on special holidays there were tens of thousands of people here in this area who were coming here for specific rituals, ceremonies, and offerings as well. At this temple, the Incas were able to worship their gods. Some of these rocks that you can see here are actually insanely huge. They all come from mountains that are here in the area. Also here in Sacsayhuaman, there were large food and weapon storages that you can see here in the background. I'm actually seeing alpacas. There are a few, and I'm slowly walking closer. This is going to be my very first encounter with an alpaca. There they are. Aren't they cute? It smells a bit weird here, a bit like poop, but anyway, those are my first alpacas that I am seeing in real life, although I don't think they are as free as I thought they were. There's like a building or something here. I'm not sure if there's someone that cares about the alpacas. Probably there is. But anyway, they are super cute, and there are even tiny ones. There's also a natural slide down here, which looks kind of fun. I think I might try this out. Let's see if I can get down there. Woo! Oh, that hurt. Okay. Last part. Ooh! Gracias. Okay, that was fun, but it hurt a bit my butt. Now the Inca at this temple, they didn't only have storage for weapons and food, they also had a very intelligent water supply system. Here, this area behind me was completely flooded when the Incas were here, and the water came from the mountains.
I've heard about a tunnel system in Sacsayhuaman, and I was excited when I actually found these tunnels.
I almost don't fit.
They were getting completely dark, and also they really weren't wide. I almost felt too big to walk through this tunnel.
And it smells a bit weird. And it's also completely dark. I don't know if you can see that much, but it's also wet here.
There are 2 of these tunnels in Sacsayhuaman, but as far as I know, it is not really clear why they have been constructed or what they've been used for.
Ooh, I'm not sure where this is going to lead me. I'm getting a bit claustrophobic in here. Oh, I see light. I see light. Oh, it smells a little bit ugly. There it is, the exit. Woohoo! I'm out. I'm out of the tunnel system. That's interesting. A little bit claustrophobic in there, that's for sure. But you gotta discover everything, right? For me, this area here is clearly a must visit if you are coming to Cusco. Not only because it is so close to the city center and therefore very easy to reach, it is also super impressive. For me, this has been the first Inca temple that I have seen. I guess that made it even more special. I am really impressed. It is a beautiful site, it is huge and very interesting to see such a historical place. I am now going to show you one last viewpoint that is right here at the other side of this area. We are now at the viewpoint that I talked about. This is the Jesus Christ statue. As you can see, it looks very similar to the one in Rio de Janeiro, but I guess the one in Rio is much bigger than this one here. Actually, the statue has been built by some Palestinian people who moved here and lived here in this area of Cusco after the World War II. And again, from here we get an insanely beautiful view over the city of Cusco. And with that stunning view over the city of Cusco, it is now time to say goodbye for today. For this video, we are at the end of our tour through Cusco. For me personally, the Sacsayhuaman temple was the most impressive part of this tour. It is clearly a must visit in my opinion. And I hope you enjoyed this tour through Cusco as well. If you enjoyed this video and if you learned a little bit, make sure to leave me a thumbs up, drop me a like, and also subscribe to my video because we are still at the beginning of our tour through Peru. I'm going to show you various places here in the country and I will see you in the next one.